People will take their kids into the park and they're like, oh, yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
People will take their kids into the park and they're like, oh, yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Park.
It was crazy in the 60s when they first built it and I drove. But one time they didn't have any signage and I got points going the wrong way and traffic. And then she was
Can we try it again?
came down. I got over my own heart attack. Got on the other one. Good for you.
Come here.
How are you doing?
Good for you.
This is Penelope.
Hello.
This is Mr. Hernandez. He runs our city.
It's okay. So are you from
my
Tallahassee
No,
or New York? Oh,
she was in Tallahassee with me
I
yesterday.
guess I recognize.
Last week.
She was the one that was on the club.
But I was doing Camp Tallahassee with her and her cousins there. I mean, I call it Camp Tallahassee. I take them up somewhere every day. And now she's flying home on Wednesday.
Well, I'm glad they were here for this. Good to see you.
They're on power. This is Miss Erica.
Hi.
Say hello.
I can't see myself doing that.
So, hey, welcome. Good to see you. And this is Councilman Behet.
He's out here with us now.
No, it's only one page.
Chris, where's something? I'm gonna stand up.
Oh, look, when you sit over there, I'm gonna sit you right over there and Papa's gonna come get you, but look, I brought you this book. So you can write in here when you're sitting over there, okay?
You can sit there. You have a microphone so you can answer questions. If, yes, hopefully. Don't worry about the arrangement here. I'm gonna do it from here because I have the PowerPoint.
Where do we find to ask
You
questions?
can have my chair.
Can we?
Yeah,
Ask
we're gonna
question.
do public comment, so I'll open it up for, do we have a little?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, right now, oh no, I want to ask questions after the presentation or if there's something I don't understand.
You can reach out to us after, you can make comments before, and then after the meeting, you can reach out to any of us or JC and
We
stuff.
can't speak during the meeting.
No, it'll be
Okay.
right before, but we're willing to,
I can call you, Mayor. I've got your number.
I know you do, Neri. Hey, I can't complain. Neri and Grace have made blankets for every single one of my grandchildren. Beautiful handmade blankets, so they're very special people to me.
The presentation, yeah.
Oh, you have a question about gardening? I have a question on the. You got your budget?
All the copies.
We are good in our household. Always.
I do.
Finance guy.
This is the finance guy. This is the numbers guy. Yes.
You don't recognize it because you haven't seen it. Right, that's true. Perfect spot.
I love it.
You want a picture taken with grandma also? Are you gonna take the picture of the two of them that you want to?
Do you want me to, you want to sit with them? Mayor, you want to sit with them?
Yes.
The what? But that's a PowerPoint on the working.
Look at big, right? Sit back down.
Oops, sorry, Mayor.
That was everything you wanted, right? Yes.
And I'm
No.
looking for the page. where it says-
How many enrollments?
Yeah, one thing I noticed.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Grandchildren, great grandchildren.
No. Yeah, this is, it works from here. And plus I see it better.
They're changing the format.
Let's go come get her.
Wow.
My husband's gonna come get her. Just
Okay, well, he can come over on this side, we don't bite. Wanna sit with us? Come on, you can sit with us, it's okay. She said no, she's too shy. I guess I'll put on my long distance glasses, I can see everything on the PowerPoint. Oh, yeah. PowerPoint was
Huh? Yes, please.
Who's old? They're getting active.
August, how's that possible?
That is a very. Pass this. Last thing we.
Only thing is like.
Oh, boy.
That's what I like, and they're not heavy on my nose.
Hey, George,
Where?
how are you doing?
This one's fun.
Hey, Sweetie, how you doing? What I know. Every time that we have meetings like this, I'm like,
Awesome.
You didn't wanna come back?
No, I'm still looking, that's my little. She's leaving on Wednesday, but she flew home from Tallahassee with me on Sunday. She was in Atlanta with her cousins in Atlanta, then we went for a family honeymoon. She. Tallahassee with me once. I did Camp Tallahassee with her and her cousins for a week. I took them every day. It's a different. You know what? It's so much, for me, it's more fun than anything.
I told her to get more experience, I like to drive my car.
I'm gonna do it from here because the PowerPoint works from here.
Summer bin Jackie.
We leave for Key West tomorrow, so great.
For family vacation.
Councilman Basket is online.
Okay, all right, so we're ready? Okay. If anyone, if anyone would like to speak during public forum, please come up and sign at the podium. Sign your name and address at the podium.
Did I ask that question? Okay.
Anybody else would like to sign to speak at public forum before we start the meeting? Okay, call the roll, please.
Mayor Mitchell,
Here.
Vice Mayor Fahet.
Here.
Councilman Santeen,
Here.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Here.
Councilman Vasquez.
Here.
There's a quorum present.
Thank you. All rise, please, for the invocation if you're able and for the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Heavenly Father, we ask for your guidance here tonight. We ask for your blessings, and we thank you for everything you do for our community. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is our budget workshop meeting of August 5th, 2024. And we're very grateful to all of you that are in the audience joining us and those of you that may be joining us from home. We appreciate your engagement in our community's budget process. And I just want to say that this budget process is different because we have a new city manager, and our new city managers always have their way of doing things. So JC had advised each of us that he had his way of doing the budget process. And that way, if you see something that's a little different from before, that's the city manager's prerogative, and I fully support that. He is the one that is the most knowledgeable as to what our city's current fiscal situation is, and has worked with the department directors and with each of us. So we ask for your understanding of this process. It's difficult. Things may be said that, you may or may not agree with, but ultimately, please know that each one of us here on the council is truly doing the work that we believe is in the best interest of our city, not just for this year, but for the future. And with that, I'll turn it over to our city manager, JC Jimenez.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I truly an honor to be here presenting my first official budget, if you will, to the city and to the residents.
Excuse me, JC. I'm so sorry. I need to do the public forum first. I just said we would do that before and I totally forgot. So who do we have signed up to speak? Is it Neri Owens?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Owens.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Neri Owens, 169 Corridon Drive, lived here since 1958 when my dad built his own house on East Drive. I've been through a lot of budget cycles. I think the most important thing the city can focus on in spending money is on an arborist. Our trees are critical, have been critical to this city since I've been here in the beginning. And we're losing sight of people who cut them down and put them in the garbage or hire somebody to chip them. And I think we're losing some of our canopy because we have an on-call contractor. We don't have an arborist like Tom Nash. living in our city, driving around, paying attention. And I think it's critical to our city to have the arborist. The other area of concern that I want to focus on is on trash. I hope we don't have another increase in trash money that we're going to have to charge the homeowners. Because we just did an increase recently, and if we do, and that was like 12% or 15% or something. If we have another increase, it's going to be too much of a burden in this one year. So please take those two things into account and consideration if you can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, JC.
No problem. And Mayor, just so I can answer one of Mrs. Owen's concerns. No, we're not proposing any more increases to the trash. So.
Mr. Manager, can you speak into the mic, please?
We're gonna see how the increases that we'd made maybe a few months ago, we're gonna see how that we're projecting that it's gonna stop the bleed in the solid waste fund or sanitation fund, and we'll ultimately start putting back a little bit of money back into reserves there in that fund. But you'll see more about that a little later on in the presentation. I know that at the budget, the millage setting workshop, or the meeting, I know it was sticker shock where we were looking at possibly setting the cap at 7.41. However, Chris, myself, and the department heads, we knew that wasn't going to be the budget we were going to, or the millage rate we were going to recommend. We knew it had to come down, but based on the information we had, seeing the shortfall with the gap from last year rolling over, and on top of that, the shortfall from the golf course and the reserves, the requirement of the reserves to pay back, that was the worst case scenario. So we set it at 7.41, but I am happy to say that in this proposed budget, we've made significant cuts and we brought it back down to the current rate of 6.91 mils. Hold on, let me. Erica. Okay, thank you. So per the property appraiser's office, the whole citywide assessed value is a little under $1.8 billion, and that is up 8.8% from last year. As I said before, the millage rate that we're requesting or proposing is 6.91 mils, which is the same as last year, or the current year, or the last 2 years, if anything. Right? It's the last 2 years has been 6.91.
Yes.
And in this budget, we have a proposed COLA of 3% for general full-time employees. As that's not including what the union, the sworn police officers get of 4%. And that's included in the budget as well. The issues that we encountered early on, and the reason why it was set at 7.41, is we had a carryover deficit from the previous year of $1.2 million, a little over $1.2 million. The loss of the revenue from the golf course, which was opened up 6 months later, that was initially projected to be around $1.4 million of a loss in revenues. However, luckily, ever since we opened up, we've been exceeding our monthly numbers. So that number is not going to be as bad, or we're hoping that it's not as bad as what we were initially expecting. The senior center had a shortfall of $300,000 because of the senior meals. Tammy Key, instrumental in helping us identify this issue. And we had to make some modifications to the lunchtime crowd, to the lunch schedule, so that we stop this issue, this shortfall.
Right.
So what we did was the senior meals. I guess when we had the old senior center, we were feeding around maybe 120 people. It went up to close to 300 people just as very recently, and there was no plan in place. We were just anybody that was coming in, we were feeding them. So what we did is we set the lunch hours between 11 and 1, and we also cut it back to 150 meals, and it's on a first come, first served basis. We have, we're looking to explore other options, other avenues, partnering maybe with the local Rotary. I know that Tammy has met with the Rotary to see if we can apply for grants with local restaurants, local chains, to see if we can do bag lunches. We can supplement what we're doing with other means of providing food to the seniors there. The other issue that we had is our reserve policy, 25%. That would reflect a $1.5 million payback. Okay, this budget, and I'm going to say it, this budget assumes that we're going to modify that to what I'm recommending, and I have it in front of you. It's an article from the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, in where we would adopt a range. So our budget, I'm going to be proposing at the next meeting that we set up a range that we set the reserves in a range of 18 to 25%. And if you when you read the article, you'll notice that that's one of the methods they recommend. And then obviously, I think we've all dealt with this, the rising cost of inflation. Things have just, the cost of anything has just gone up. Okay. Oh, sorry. There we go. So here are the cuts that we made. 3 full-time positions were removed, totaling 197,000. 1 full-time reduced to part-time, saving 40,000. 6 part-time positions were removed, saving 109. 1 part-time position was reduced in hours, saving 5. We are not funding the CMI this year, and I've already had the discussion with them. The River Cities Festival, we are not funding this year. They made, just I met with Julie and the River Cities, they made about $30,000 this past festival, and she was even contemplating even asking for money from us. We removed 1 Easter event. We have 2 Easter events here. The first one is, that's not the one that's still in the budget, is the regular Easter egg hunt that we have. The one that we did remove was one that came about during COVID, and that's called the Easter egg drop, in which parents would sign up their houses, and then our staff would come here on Saturday night before Easter, prepare everything, and then with the police escort, would deliver the eggs to the different houses and set it up and leave a little sign. It's an overtime issue there, and plus, you have the staff working on Easter Sunday, dropping the eggs off. I didn't feel the need that we needed 2 Easter events, especially since one was just done for COVID. So that one was removed. And then we decreased general budgets within the departments, little cuts here and there from different line items, 91,000. We decreased the non-departmental transfers, 96,000, and the planning services were decreased by 104,000. Just so you know, the planning CGA, they have they currently are working on a number of projects, 36th Street, the Abraham tract. That money that they're currently working on, that's going to be carried over into this new budget. And then on top of that, they have their regular planning services, and then some money set aside for any additional projects that may come up.
Lucy, could I ask you the transfer budgets? What is that? Decrease non-departmental transfer budgets?
I'll ask Chris to answer that question.
Mayor, the majority of that transfer decrease was the interfund transfer needed to fund the senior center. Initially, the budget calls for, I think, currently like 746,000. It was initially budgeted around 900,000 before we started making the adjustments we did a month ago.
So the decrease in general budgets within departments is independent of this other decrease. Non-departmental transfer budgets are two total.
Yeah,
independent
it's
items.
totally different things.
The total savings there, total reductions, just a little bit under $700,000. Now, we'll get to mayor and council. And we're going to go into the department line, item by item. And you'll see here, this will give you a good representation as how each department was affected by the cuts. And so you'll see the difference, the percentage change. Under the council budget, obviously we don't have as I mentioned before, the Curtis Mansion or the River Cities. You guys, this budget is, because of that, it's below last year's budget by 29.56%. There is money, $5,000 budgeted for the Centennial, and there is money funding budgeted for the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and the Optimist Club. The Optimist Club let me know that they are going to be doing their barbecue. I think they've mentioned it before. Going to be doing their barbecue with a partial circle closure. So that's in this budget here as well. Sorry, this.
JC, and let me just.
Sure.
The funding that we're not funding Curtis Mansion and River Cities this year. And I just want to clarify that's because Curtis Mansion is generating revenues.
That's
to
correct.
cover,
That's correct.
Which was the intent initially when, the city started with Curtis Mansion and all, is that they would get to a point, we would subsidize them until they get to a point where hopefully they generate enough revenues to keep themselves going. And the River Cities, it's because also
They made money.
they made money. So, which is the first time.
Our subsidy, I'm holding it back.
Okay.
Right, this is jumping all over the place. This,
Do you want me to, I can do it for you.
yeah, do me a favor. Can you just go
Go
back?
back.
Yeah. This is jumping.
Yeah.
Go back a little further.
Mhm.
You see something more? More again? Again, right here. This, for some reason, when I was using this, was skipping slides. So just to give you a millage rate comparison, this slide right here shows where the millage was back 10 years ago, 2015, and where it is now. So you can see a nice downward trend there, which is what you want to see if you're a resident. And I give you my word that we're going to try to continue that trend, but I needed to stabilize the city financially. And I don't think that going down any further would be prudent at this time, but I give you my word, I will try in years moving forward if I can. That's what any manager would do. Go to the next one. All right, so we're up to the city clerk. I want to make sure I didn't want to, yeah, got that one. Okay. City clerk. One of the things I'm very excited about in this budget is we're going to begin our passport office here. So the clerk saw Erica and her team. They've done all the training and they're ready to go. So we're going to set that up by appointment only. We'll start off slow, and then as it becomes more popular and we start getting used to it, then we'll increase the amount of reservations or appointments that we offer. We are expecting a projected revenue there of 50,000. We think that's conservative, because we can charge for a convenience fee of doing it here, plus the photos that we're going to be offering as well here. Which we have money in the budget for the photo printer and for the software and the camera as well. And then she's budgeting for the election next year as well. Next one. My budget is up mainly because I'm recommending that we bring on a federal lobbyist to assist us in securing additional funding for projects. I have right now $500,000 that is in play up in the federal government. They've been assisting me greatly. Plus, when we get to the senior center, budget, you're gonna notice that the Alliance for Aging grant, that's for 6 years, is expiring, and we are now gonna be applying for another one, which is gonna be due in December. That's a federal grant. We're gonna need some assistance there, I believe. That was over $2 million in 6 years that we received from them. So that's a big deal for us. Next slide. Under human resources, I have budgeted $35,000 for a classification and compensation study. I want to be able to organize the human resources department. I believe we're a little antiquated, and I want to get some updated job descriptions. Also want to do a brand new employee policy manual that should be coming in soon. And I'm going to start the performance evaluations. Let's see here. Oh, and our health insurance came in under budget. There's no increase to health insurance this year. Humana is getting out of the business, which is our current provider, and they said that this was our last year. So when we met with our consultant, I told them, hey, go, and there's only 5 of them. We don't need to do a formal RFP. Go out, talk to them, get bids, and then try to shake down the lowest bidder. And they did. And United Healthcare came back, and we are now saving 2.5% below what we're currently paying. And by switching over our dental and vision, it came down an extra 2.5% for a total of 5% lower than what we're currently paying.
By including our dental and vision with them.
And that contract will be coming at the next meeting for you. All right, next department. Finance. We're projecting an increase in external auditing services. That's out to bid. Right now, we're in that process. The special magistrate fees and actuarial reports as we pick up, we're in the process of adding a second special magistrate or replacing the one that we have. We believe that those fees are going to go up. And then obviously there's professional services up due to an increase in salaries.
I'm sorry, the increase to external audit services, isn't that something that we currently have, right? We don't have that right now?
We do have an external auditor, but the contract expires and we're out to bid.
Okay, so you don't want to continue with the same people, is that what you want to?
No, it's
Look out.
it's the contract is over, so we have to bid it out again. And
Okay.
then they can bid again, but
Okay.
we have to go out to
Okay,
bid.
good. And then proposed budget for,
We have to go out to bid every 5 years. You can still select the same one if they
I
bid.
didn't know they were expiring.
Yeah.
Thought I was kind of confused. And then for the professional services, what do you mean by exactly the professional services for the 10.79 roughly?
Chris?
You're talking about the professional services, correct? It's
Yeah.
mainly increases in the employees in that department, salaries and benefits.
Which have to do with the 3% proposed at the beginning of the report, or,
Yes.
okay.
The next city attorney, this budget stays the same at this time. No increase, no anything, although next year, we'll see what next year brings. Following CGA, as I mentioned earlier, this budget came down $104,033. The next slide.
JC, I
Sure.
just want to clarify with that. It's not that we're having any less in
No.
our planning. And I'm guessing on this, it's that when they came on board last year, they estimated what their cost would be to service our city, and so that they
That
would
is
adjust
correct.
that as it came.
We're not reducing any services whatsoever.
Oh.
There is money set aside for special projects, but they're still working on what they've started this year, and that's going to roll over until next year. So
Okay, so
it's
this is
not a
more
cut
of
in
an
service.
adjustment of realizing in our size city what the work entails, what the professional work
And
entails, and moving
considering-
forward. And
Our zoning code and all the quirkiness that it has, we're going to find other things that need to be fixed that's happened in the last year. And I'm sure that will continue happening. So we'll continue updating any outdated codes, zoning codes, and things as come up as they come up. And then they have budgeted as well their regular planning services.
Mhm.
All for that. In police, the police budget, that came down $201,000. That's 2.27% below last year. Included in this budget, well, they a lot of the part-timers, and the reason why this came down, a lot of the part-timers was from PD that they gave up. And so that's where you see the reduction there. The police vehicles, we have $500,000 budgeted, but that's pending the $500,000 federal grant that we're getting. That's still in play. I'm not gonna spend the money until I'm confirmed that we're gonna get the grant. That's still moving along, and we should know by September, but the federal government isn't getting along right now. And so I'm not sure when they're gonna be getting back to us, but our lobbyist, or the lobbyist that I've been working with, he's been helping me out. He's been giving me information. He's like, I don't think they're gonna cut anything. It's just a lot of political maneuvering right now.
And I want to mention just that it's Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart's office that
Correct.
we reached out to for this funding, which is actually funding, not just, matching grants or anything, funding. For us. And they've been very, very helpful with this.
So, and then there's 10 laptops included in this budget. That's for the new officers and a couple of replacements that have aged out. And then this is also the second year of the tasers. Okay, and that's it. And the crossing guards is down there. That's $1,500 extra. In code compliance, there's again I believe there was a part-time position there that was eliminated. That's why this one came down a bit. IT, this one's down. Overall expenditure reductions throughout the
Did you go
department.
back to code and compliance?
Sure.
We eliminated a position? You
I believe there was a part-time position that was budgeted, not filled.
Okay.
That was eliminated there.
That was not for an enforcement officer, though.
No, that was more
Right. We still
administrative,
have the
clerical.
three
We have 3 code
enforcement
enforcement officers.
officers. Okay.
But, JC, can you clarify for the public that in many of the payroll, deductions, many of the positions were actually unfilled?
Yeah, all unfilled. They were unfilled.
Right.
Through attrition, if it were vacated throughout the year and not filled, I just snatched those up
Right.
and said, no, we're not gonna fill them.
Right, because what was happening is that they were proposing to hire, and so they would propose it on the budget and it never actualized. So here we're dealing with inflated numbers.
Right,
So
you
if we
had-
move
right.
something now, we just really can't hire.
Yeah.
So now we've come back to the basics.
So whenever you have a
Okay.
position, right, you hire you budget for that. Throughout the year, people resign, they leave, move on to other ones. And if it was still vacant, that's when I picked them up, unless it's an absolute necessity that needed to be done and they had to verify that they needed that position, I took them. So next, IT, we just reduced some of the costs that they had there, from different line items. Recreation has a couple different, you have the administration, the aquatic center, but overall, that budget came down 2.11%. We do have some capital improvements there. We have the fire panel at the rec center is being replaced. A pool pump at the aquatic center, that's being replaced. The gym flooring, not the basketball wood flooring, but at in the exercise equipment, where the exercise equipment in the rec center, the flooring is being replaced in there, plus the carpet in the upstairs by the theater, that's being replaced. It's pretty bad shape.
Right.
We also we're reupholstering the pool lounge chairs. And we're getting a new Sand Pro. I do want to make note, because I think there's a resident that is going to be reaching out to you. We're not including in this budget the lights for the pool deck. You may be hearing that they want this done. We're not including that in this year. I just can't swing it.
Yeah, do the chair. We spoke about it earlier today. I don't think they got the water heater the pool heater that we talked about last budget meeting, I know it's needed. So if we can try to squeeze that in there,
Okay.
because I think it is a priority, because then now you're gonna have not only senior citizens, but other constituents that want to use a pool during colder times, and we don't have a, I know that that was something on the books last year and it wasn't fulfilled, and I think.
Well, if it's in the books, if it's in the budget this current fiscal year, no, not the proposed one, but the one that we're currently in, and it's not, hasn't been used, then we can go ahead and get it. So I'll talk to Omar
I'll
and
talk to him. 'Cause I
I'll
don't
talk to
think
him.
he did.
Public Works. Let's see here, some of the highlights here. The sanitation rates, we just raised them recently. The overall net position of that fund is negative, so we need to start chipping away at that. And these new rates, we're gonna start we're budgeting a surplus of, how much is it that we're budgeting there? About 40,000, you said?
Just under 50,000. I think it's 47,000 and change.
So we can start putting back into the reserves. When we get to that page, you'll notice that that fund, especially in the reserves, is negative. It's negative by a lot for a number of years.
Of course, of undercharging all the residents for those years. Just to be clear.
You know, the cost, a little bit of both, right? Cost went out of whack with the trucks breaking down, whatever, and then maybe the fees weren't exactly where they
We
were
didn't
supposed to be.
adjust the fees,
We didn't adjust
compensate
them.
for the cost, increased cost for years.
And every year we would, I mean, at least in my experience, every year we get notice from the county or wherever we dump our trash, and they say, okay, the tipping fees are gonna be this. They usually go up by the CPI. Now, if we weren't passing that along, then we were absorbing it, and I think maybe that's what happened for a number of years. And that's why we weren't keeping up there. So we've adjusted. We're gonna see how this year goes. And I'm expecting that we've stopped that bleed, and then we'll see where we go next year and see what the increases are next year. The golf club, the golf course. We're finally open and we're doing pretty well. I'm happy to say, I think we've hit the mark on every month, exceeded the budget ever since we opened up. We've exceeded each month. We have, let's see here. There's not much there, not much not much improvements that are gonna be. We just finished the golf course. In the middle of the year, I may be coming back to you because the equipment is due to be replaced. Now, I guess we've been working with the vendor of the equipment, like the tractor and all the other equipment, for over a year now, but due to supply issues, we haven't been able to get it in. And I've indicated that unless we're gonna be able to get at least 50% of the equipment to hold it until they have all that equipment, because once they let us know how much it's gonna be, then we need to figure out how we're gonna pay for it. So I may be coming back to you for that. That's if it happens this fiscal year. The next one. Here's the non-departmental and transfers. The debt service, that's our debt. That's how much we pay every year. I mean, that's how much we pay for all the debt that we have. And then the senior center transfer is increased from 537 to 746,000. The next one. Capital outlay. The police vehicles takes up the biggest chunk here. That's $500,000 worth of that. And then the other things, the pool pump, the panel, the fire panel, the reupholstering of the lawn chair, of the chairs, that takes up the rest. Senior center. We've had to make some cuts there. And you'll see here, it was necessary because it wasn't sustainable for us. So come December, we do have this grant that we're going to be applying for, which we currently have, and it's expiring in December. If we don't get it, well, we're going to have a more difficult discussion later on, but I'm optimistic that we can get it, once the federal government decides that they're gonna open up the grant cycle.
Let's expand it a little bit for the purpose of the residents that might be listening on the senior center services, the adult community center.
Mhm.
What we're talking about is that the center, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's been highly successful. We
It's
had
extremely
at
successful.
the old senior center, which was, my understanding was the original gym for Miami Springs way back when, in the 30s and 40s, the field house. We had a few, seniors that went and had lunch and they left. And ever since we've built the adult community center, it has been a great success story. As anyone who's been there, you can just tell. I mean, it's jaw-droppingly beautiful. And Tammy and her staff have done an amazing job of, a continued amazing job of improving the opportunities, the classes, everything. So it's not just a, place to go have lunch. And it's been such a great success that we have a lot more people attending than we expected, double what we had before it had opened. So the funding from the state hasn't kept up with that. And so some of these adjustments are, and if you could just talk about that, what you've done is just tighten the
Yes.
lunchtime.
Tighten the lunchtime,
Time.
and we've had to scale back the number of meals that we're handing out, that we're giving away. It was, reached to the point it was around 300 meals a day. And I had to scale that back to 150. And then also reduce the lunchtime hour. It was before, it was between the hours of 11 and 2, and now we're doing 11 to 1. That helps with the part-time employees that we have to serve the
Also,
food.
to not be available all day long to be serving meals, there's a certain lunchtime and,
That's
and
correct.
just,
And so
Okay.
the Alliance for Aging, that grant, we received, as you see there, over $2 million in 6 years. That helps us with this program. Without that grant, it's gonna be a different building.
and we'll continue to pursue that. Like I said, this is a success story and it needs the funding to go along with the rapid success
To
that
your-
we've
to-
experienced. So, we'll
Your point,
continue
Mayor,
to pursue that.
you mentioned that with the old building, it was, it had its crowd, but nobody expected this. To my understanding, I know William wanted this to be a success, and it did. It is a success. The movie Field of Dreams comes to mind. If you build it, they will come. We built it, they came, and they keep coming.
And we need to pursue continue pursuing the state appropriations to fund the senior meals to the full capacity. But luckily, the center
Chair.
itself is big, to accommodate the crowds. It was built with that vision in mind. So
I think I heard Councilman Vasquez.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask now, these are, and I understand, Mr. Manager, the reasons for the changes in the lunch and so forth, and our commitment, as the mayor said, to continue to get other funding sources, other revenue sources, so that we continue what is by all measures a very successful program. When is this, when are we projecting to implement this? I guess when the budget is done, and how is that information going to be communicated to the seniors?
We've already implemented those changes because and the reason I had to do that is because it was already over budget, and I didn't want it to affect our reserves any further. So we implemented those changes probably over a month ago, and Tammy and her staff have addressed their clients, their customers, the seniors. I think you've met with them a few times to explain what was going on. So I hope I answered your question, sir.
Understood, sir. Thank you.
Mayor,
yes, sir.
I think also JC, part of the big increase in the number of meals served, I think was spurred also from COVID, right? I think that they were, if I'm not wrong, they were serving a certain number of meals, and then because of the insecurity, food insecurity that came with COVID, then that
That's
grew,
correct.
and then it kind of stayed
It stayed.
grown.
And then the other issue that we were having is people were coming, eating, and then taking another meal home. And so we had to eliminate that practice. Now, if somebody comes in and they're eating and then they take the rest of their food home, that's fine. We don't have a problem with that. But it was the taking of multiple meals that was adding to
The burden.
the overrun there.
But I just want to make sure that residents know, we will continue to pursue the funding so we can have as many meals for everyone there. This is just an adjustment at this time because certain things were not working as they should have been. And we appreciate the work that you and Tammy and your staff had to do to come up with a solution.
We'll go to the next slide. The LETF, the Law Enforcement Trust Fund. We're looking at the community policing office, buying some new cubicles and some flooring. If you've been there, kind of due. It's past due, if you will. So they're going to be taking care of that this budget year. But all that money doesn't come from, none of that comes from our general fund. That's all in the LETF. The road and transportation, this is what we call the CITT fund. It's going to be a decrease of $100,000 as far as our expenses, mainly because we completed the debt service payments to the bike path project. Building operations. This is the building department's fund, again, not funded by the general fund. And it's just basically salaries up to 2.22%. The debt service fund, we just paid off the CITT bike path, so that's why you see it less there.
Good.
The stormwater fund,
But that would have been the bike path, the westward one?
which
Is
bike
that the
path?
westward one? Tammy?
The stormwater fund, we're budgeting 32.25% less in there, just due to the completed projects. And then the sanitation fund. We've already discussed the increases that we passed maybe a month ago. We're gonna see how that works for us. We're confident that we're gonna be that we've stopped the bleed with this measure. But as you will see in a couple of slides, the reserves are way back. They're really low. I mean, negative. So we have to address that. We're going to be trying to address that when we do the reserve policy. See how we can tackle that particular item. Because the reserve policy is not just for the general fund, for all of them. And as we said before, the auditors pointed that out to us at the most recent audit. Here, I'm not going to call anything a wish list.
JC, I just want to go back to that for anyone that's listening to clarify that. The auditors, when they did their audit of the
Yeah, our
city,
annual audit.
they pointed out that our sanitation funds were too low, basically, that we needed
correct.
to adjust them, which is something that we kind of
Absolutely.
didn't do. We weren't passing on the costs for residents, the increased inflation cost,
That's exactly correct, mate.
like you explained a little while ago. So this adjustment that we've done is in accordance with the auditor's report, their recommendations, the adjustment that we did a few months back when we increased the sanitation fees. And so what you're saying here, this percent budget change, you expect it to now be compensated for with this
No,
year?
the sanitation fund, this is just the budget expenditure portion of it. We're expecting it lower by 7.40%. Basically the rollover funds for the sanitation trucks, and there was a reduction in the administrative charge paid to the general fund. So we've kind of lowered the expenses of that fund.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Here, this is not a wish list. I'm not calling anything a wish list. When I discuss a wish list, I heard a lot about that during the budget process last year. What I'm pointing out to you here, these are items that in the near future we will be discussing. I will be bringing these to you in the near future. We'll plan accordingly when I can obtain funding for these things, for these items. One in particular will be coming to you soon. And I want to see how we finish off after we finish off the fiscal year and how the general fund reserves look. The roof at the golf course, at the country club, the center, there's like 3 different roofs there. There's the 2 sides and the one in the middle. The one in the middle is leaking. It's in need of repair. It's leaking to the point where the wall on the side is, I mean, you can put your hand through it. And this is the banquet hall where we rent out for weddings. It doesn't look good and it needs to be addressed. So I'll be bringing that to you probably in the next calendar year, with an idea of where we're going to get it funded. But that needs to be done ASAP, because if not, it's just going to get worse. Then here additional there, I mentioned the golf course equipment. That will need to be replaced. It's on a 5-year replacement cycle. We're in the 6th year of the equipment. The new fleet for public works and police, that's something I'm working on. The public works fleet is pretty beat up. A lot of them no air conditioning. Doesn't look the best. And their equipment is, I mean, in my opinion, some of these could be dangerous. The stump grinder is like from the year Glenn Curtis founded the city. It's old and it doesn't work sometimes it doesn't. I don't want public works to be operating that way. We have a new public works director starting on Wednesday. I'm going to let him tell me what they need, but I can tell you that there is a need there. The freebie, that's something that I've been wanting to do. Had to put that on hold right now because freebie costs more money than what we're paying for our shuttle. So until I'm comfortable with our finances, then I'll bring that back. If I can swing it this year, I will. But I'm not going to rush just yet on that. It is more expensive. The driving range turf, this is an idea that Kevin has brought to my attention. Right now, the driving range is all grass. And the way they do it is they separate it into rows. And 1 week they'll be playing off of one row, then they switch them to the back, so to allow the grass to grow in. But a couple times a year, they have to close it completely to allow for the grass to really restore itself, to get treated and restore and grow again. What he wants to do is one row towards the back, one row of artificial turf. So that way, when the grass needs to grow in, we don't have to stop the driving range. We can just play off the turf, and gives the grass time to breathe, time to grow, while we're still bringing in revenue. So I thought that was a good idea, where he's got some possibilities there that we can maybe even get it sponsored. Not going to say anything. That's as far as I'll say. That's as much as I'll say. So hopefully some exciting things coming. I'm a big believer, and Mayor, you and I have talked about it, nice entryway signs, beautification throughout the city. Those are things that I have to kind of put on hold right now, because in order to, like, for example, on Westward, I think the landscaping leaves a little to be desired. I'd love to add new landscaping. However, there's no irrigation. So I'd have to put new irrigation in, and I just don't have the funds for that right now. The ERP system, which is our financial system, our enterprise resource planning software, that's old. It needs to be replaced, just so that we can get with the modern times, and the budgeting would be a lot simpler, a lot smoother. And plus the departments communicating with each other and with finance, I'm a big believer in that. The tennis court roof at the pro shop, that's leaking. I don't think that's going to be a lot. That'll be coming. I might try to get that done as soon as possible. But I just want to let you know that. Stormwater master plan, charter and ordinance review, the replacement of the generator here in City Hall. These are things that I've identified over the last year that are an issue. And at one point or another, I want to address these. The last item on this list is the Forest Drive stormwater project. We've just received $1 million from the state, or we were awarded 1
Skipped a
million.
whole bunch.
No, I know. I'm
Okay.
just,
Just-
I mean, if there's one in particular that you want to talk about, but it's just
Well,
a
the
running
lighting
list.
at the tennis center. We need new lights?
Yes, well, those lights are really old. We're looking at a program right now. I don't know if I can share
Yeah, sure.
with FPL to retrofit those lights with LED lights. And the way the program works is with the savings that you get for switching over those old lights to LED, you pay off the work that FPL does over a course of a number of years. So we're exploring that. That would be probably the most cost efficient way of doing it. So the Forest Drive, that we were awarded $1 million from the state this legislative session. And we're right now we're working with the state to get the contract. That contract will be coming to you soon once it's written. But then that means that this fiscal year, we're going to have to spend money on the design of this project. Fortunately, that's from the Stormwater Fund. Stormwater Fund is pretty healthy. And so we'll probably be tapping into that for the design of this project. Let's see, another point regarding the Stormwater Fund is as part of the impact fee study, they're also going to look at the stormwater fee rate structure to make sure that it's adequate and it's not, that it's covering the costs. So they're going to look at that as well in case we need to adjust the stormwater fee, which
Through the
hasn't been
chair.
looked at many, many years.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize, Mr. Manager. I was flipping pages here. But I think you and I talked about this, but I wanted to get your sense, and this has to do with with our debt services, your thoughts on restructuring. I mean, we've done this in the past to help us and give us a little breathing room. Your thoughts on this?
I'm all in favor of when the opportunity presents itself and the market is okay to do it. I'm all in favor of refinancing and organizing our debt so that we get the best rate possible. However, if you look at our debt schedule that we have, I would say most of the loans that we have have interest rates in the 2s and the 3s.
Right.
And right now, interest rate is at 6. Interest rates are maybe a little sub 6.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I don't think we're in the position just yet to do that, but
Right.
who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of months? I've heard that the feds are looking at reducing it soon, but when the time is right, we'll jump all over that.
That's what I had in mind, but I appreciate your thoughts on that, sir. Thank you.
Next one. And here, this is the sanitation, basically your net assets. And if you look at the bottom there, you'll see Chris, correct? If you can share what that means there, it's 894,922.76 in the hole.
Yeah, those the two columns JC is referring to is the 23-24 budget and the 24-25 budget. Those are currently still projected out. The last audited number is the 767,935 actual. So depending on the way this year shakes out and next year, you're hoping you're not going to get up to 950 or 895,000 negative. You're going the wrong way. The anticipation is that 24-25 will have a little surplus of about $50,000, and we'll see where this year ends based on spending. And once the audit's done, where, if we go up or down from the 767 where we're currently at audited.
So that's that fund. I wanted to share that with you. And then the last fund is we have the stormwater. Stormwater is in much better shape there if you look at the bottom there, the ending net assets. Like we're in good shape there. And then the next slide, some of the unknowns that may affect us in the future. And for next budget year, our property values, we're seeing a little bit, I think we're seeing a little slowdown. We'll see how it goes, but we went from previous year, I think our property values were 2.8%. and this year they're 8.8. I know that's a very small sample size, but I mean, I've seen houses on the market a lot longer than we've been used to seeing. And then the other effect here, the other wild card is the extra ballot land, the extra homestead exemption, and that's going to be in the November ballot. The language is very weird. If you've read the bill, it's kind of like this percentage. It could be an extra 25% if, an extra 25,000 if there's, what's the language that they were saying? If you're, it's tied to CPI, basically.
Yeah, positive, I believe was said a positive change in CPI.
So that's going to have an effect on us. We're a heavily homesteaded neighborhood city.
Yeah.
With a lot of long-term residents. So that'll have an effect. What it will be, I don't know. Because we can't calculate it with this language the way it is. Other than that, I think that's the last slide. And if you have any questions for myself, I have, as you can see behind me, the department heads. If you have any questions, concerns.
To the chair, do you have the bill for the homestead exemption, additional exemption that they want to impose?
I don't
By
have
any
it with
chance?
me. I can email it to you.
Yeah, so if the residents want to look into it and look into the detail of that and how
Sure.
it can
I'll email it to you.
change, okay.
Any questions for JC? I'm just gonna say, before we take the questions, is thank you. You and all the department directors here. I am just so impressed at how you took, I mean, we're talking about, there's not a person in this city who hasn't experienced this inordinate inflation that, extraordinary inflation that we've all been. You go to the grocery store and every time you pick up a can, you're going, how can this can be $5 when it used to be, $1.50 or something? Our city is impacted just as much as, all of us are in our personal lives. Our city is with labor cost, the cost of equipment, the cost of gas, the cost of everything impacts our city just as much. So I am very for as our city manager who came on board this year, right around
This year.
right,
It'll be
September, it'll be
1 year
September.
next September.
Right.
This September,
And, we gave you a full plate because you were coming on board at such a difficult time for all cities, not just ours. It's been very, very important to me, and I think to all the council, to keep our millage rate for our residents as low as possible. I've been very opposed of raising it at all. And the fact that with the increased cost and services that we provide for our city, because, and I truly believe this from the heart, Miami Springs has never been better or provided more services than it does now. And the fact that with a lot of work, a lot of massaging, because I know when you told us that, you proposed the millage to be set at 7.4.
The cap. That was the cap.
The cap, yes, the cap. At 7.4, that gives us the room. This is what you need. And then you can look at it and start adjusting. This is the most. And we gave you that flexibility. And in just a matter of a few weeks, what you've done to keep it at our current, to propose a budget at our current millage rate without an increase is extraordinary. So thank you. And thank you to all the department directors and your staff, because I know that this is not, this was not an easy feat.
No, it wasn't. And it had its challenges, but I do want to let you know that I've been doing this for, I don't know, 24, 25 years. And the last thing a manager wants to do is increase the millage rate. It's doesn't reflect well on them. And it certainly puts you, the electeds, my bosses, in a very difficult position. And I wouldn't want to do that to you guys. And to the best of my ability, I will not put you guys in that position. So, but you have my word on that. And if for some reason something happens, it's going to have to be a major financial catastrophe that will explain itself before I make that recommendation.
So,
And I do want to thank, and I'm sorry, Jackie.
No,
I do want to thank my staff. We have a great team. My department heads are second to none. And they, from the very beginning, I've been beating them over the head about this budget since I think I walked into this door. And I warned them. I said, hey, it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight. It's going to be tight. And they stepped up. There was no argument. There was no fighting. Hey, I need this. I need you to give me this. They're like, take it. Take it. They knew it needed to get done. And so I can't thank them enough.
And our residents, thank all of you, the department directors and your staff, because you're the ones that really keep the city humming and are the ones that make our city what it is. So thank you. So any questions for JC?
Sorry. Jackie, go ahead.
I'm not through the chair. I just wanted to let you know I really like this approach to the budget. A lot clearer. You proposed what was reduced by department. It wasn't redundant. One thing I can tell you that since I've been sitting here on council, I've never seen a list of so many cuts and adjustments. And for me, that's a true budget. That's a true budget because, I mean, you have to it's easier to raise millage than to get into the rabbit hole, right? But this is what we need to do. This is what, I mean, I'm a council member. I don't do what you do and what the finance director does, you know? You could be a teacher sitting up here and you, or I don't know, a social worker or somebody in a different field. I'm in real estate, right? But we rely on you and our finance director to keep our city afloat and to smooth sail. So I really like the fact you guys might have thought I was really crazy last time in the putting the cap at 6.99. But I knew we could do it. I didn't know every single aspect, but I've been putting my brain into these every single account here for quite some time. Every time I love the fact that our finance director sends us quarterly financial reports, and I know I've called you and hey, we need to meet. So I'm looking at these numbers with you too. And I knew that you guys can do it. While I understand that we were trying to create some buffer, for me, it was a little bit too big, but I'm really glad to know that even if we're at the same millage, sometimes the city has to plateau, as we discussed, to balance and to keep some sort of consistency with the city for a little bit. It could be that we're at the same millage maybe for the next 2 and 3 years, right? You propose a future project list, which is great, but I think that the city is going to be in a moment in time where we're not going to put the frosting on the cake for a while, right? Because there's a lot of priorities to run the city, and that's okay. You know, that's being financially responsible. So we could go ahead and put the landscaping and all that stuff later. Our city looks beautiful, so long it looks manicured. But this was a really good report. There was a lot of changes. And I'm satisfied. I'm really satisfied.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just so you know, in your, well, you guys have the budget document in front of you, and we can upload it and as part of the backup to this agenda so anybody can see it. There is a budget justification page with each department. So whatever, if you have a question on a line item, you can flip to it and identify what's in that line item and why it's there. So I'm going to put that up so that the residents can see it as well.
Like a link in the report?
No, well, yeah, I'm going to put the link in the agenda so
Okay.
that way they can see what you have in front
Oh,
of you.
yeah, good. Okay.
The chair.
Yes, sir.
Yes, a couple of things. Number one, I agree with Councilwoman Bravo on the way the budget is laid out. You know, we all have different styles of learning, and I'm a more visual guy. So the first thing I noticed when I saw this was it didn't visually shock me. It was easier on my eyes to try to be able to get through it. You know, the bottom line is we have to have a balanced budget, and we have lots of moving parts. We're proud of the kind of services we provide in our city, and that's what we're here to do with the revenues that we have. And so to me, that's the guiding principle here. And I really want to thank all of the staff and department heads, and even the folks that work for them who had to participate in some of these conversations to get to where we are today. So, you know, a balanced budget, you know, a little bit of a COLA, and keeping the millage rate where it is. I understand. I'd love to make it 6.8, but we don't have the $165,000 that we need to offset it on the other end. But we're always hopeful that we can do that, as the mayor has often said, and we may be looking at some tough times ahead. We don't know yet, as the councilwoman said, but you know, things could change and hopefully plateau and give us some other options, if not the next year around, the next time around after that, and continue providing the great service that we do provide and all the wonderful people that we have providing those services. So I appreciate of having had this kind of workshop this time around after a couple of times of doing it differently. I like this one. Thank you very much.
To the chair.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you, considering that for my first time last year, what I went into, and I'm like, if we're gonna do this every year, I'm definitely not gonna continue. So thank you for putting a balanced budget in front of us. That's obviously helps a lot, especially the way it was presented. And I also want to thank you and staff and of course, all the department heads on a great job, to get to this point. And I think we've taken the steps towards fiscal sustainability. But in no way, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm going to say it the way it is, we're not out of the woods.
No.
And we can't honestly continue in this path without having ways of increasing our future revenues. And this council has taken the steps to do the best they can to find ways to do it. And so I hope that the community supports a lot of our work behind the scenes, because it clearly needs work. And it's unsustainable if we keep depending on 8.4% of our commercial rent roll of values to continue the way it currently exists. But thank you for the efforts.
Wait, can you elaborate on that commercial?
Yeah, that's basically, I have the table that was fortunate to ask Chris, who gave us, and I kind of wanted to have an idea of what exactly
Our revenues are through commercial.
from commercial, and it's, a 4%.
Councilman, what you're alluding to is the future that we're looking at of the our commercial areas of expanding the Northwest 36th Street and the Abraham Track and looking for opportunities
Correct.
there.
That would help, of
That
course,
would help us.
significantly.
Right.
I
and
mean,
that's
like
what we're on
probably things that we've
track
never
to
seen
move.
before.
Yes,
But thank you.
yes, sir.
So I wanted to, again, thank you. But just to be clear, because I think that a lot of times it's real easy for people to think that government can be bloated and spendthrifts and you guys cut a lot.
Yeah.
And a while back we had just a preliminary conversation of where things were. And I remember as I was leaving, you were like, dude, smile. And I said, what's there to smile about? You had to cut a lot. The city made a lot of cuts. And I without going into detail, just mentioned to you that I had never voted to raise the millage rate, and I didn't feel like that was going to be something that I started doing this year. And you guys really tightened your belt. Every single department really tightened your belt. You guys cut spending a great deal, and that's how you were able to balance the budget. Obviously, there were some things that were unforeseen that happened, like the extended closure at the golf course and things like that. But you kind of rolled with the punches, and as much as there's a little bit of uncertainty with maybe increased homestead, which would potentially mean less revenue for us, we do have some big development projects that are going to hit next year that will finally be getting some revenue there. But to Councilman Santin's point, I think that this underscores the need to kind of consider how we can diversify our tax base, because it is majority residential, and we just need to consider those things as we move forward. But I think very well done, and no one could say that this city is being financially irresponsible. You guys really, really tightened your belts, and you did it in order for the taxpayers to not have to pay more.
And so that they don't feel a reduction in service.
Sure, you did it without really slashing in terms of the services provided. So again, you and your staff are to be commended. I personally thank you, and I think I speak for everybody in the city. Thank you for balancing this budget in the way you did and really taking it on the chin, because it is appreciated.
I appreciate that. There's no other options, right? It's onward and upward. We move forward.
You see, and I particularly like, well, several of the things that you mentioned of how you reduced it. But again, I want to say, you know, that when you said you needed the millage cap of 7.4, we gave it to you and, you know, fully expecting that, knowing that this is the cap, that we expect reductions, and you and your staff just worked miracles with no mirrors or anything, just, you know, the reality of coming down, knowing that our residents are paying the bills and they're you know, they have inflation in their personal lives, and, you know, for us to impose the inflation that we're feeling, that the city's feeling, is another hardship, even though there's no way around it. And somehow, this is, you know, keeping our millage rate at this the same as it's been the last 2 years in view of the, like I said, the extraordinary inflation that we've all been feeling, that has certainly impacted our city, is massive. I wanted to say I'm particularly impressed with medical insurance, because everywhere medical insurance keeps rising and spiraling out of cost. And for you and Bill, I'm sure you took a big part in that. This thinking out of the box way of.
I didn't want to, excuse me, I didn't want to handicap ourselves with a formal bid process. There's only 5 insurance companies in the state of Florida that services here, more or less. I told our consultant, go and just speak to all of them, see who want to give us a bid. And those, if they don't, just let us know. And whoever does give us a bid, see if we can just squeeze the most we can out of them. And she did an amazing job. Because if we go through this formal bid process, then you kind of clip your wings there, if you will, because you show them that they are the lowest bid. And they're like, no, I don't have to come down. That's what it is. In this particular way, we were able to negotiate a little bit more. So that'll be coming at the next meeting.
Well, thank you. Thank you for working it that way, because it's a great benefit for our city, and United is a very good health carrier. So we're certainly giving them a top-notch health carrier. The range. We've talked about, I know you mentioned that with the range of the lowering the reserve rate range from 18 to 25. That's the first time since you've mentioned this. It had never been on my radar. It's always been a set number of 25%, which was higher than most cities have it. But, we were always being very fiscally conservative. We've talked about lowering it to 20%, to 22%, to 18%, I think. But the range concept is just, I really like it. It's so hard to pin a number on a reserve year to year, but coming up with the range of what you said of 18 to 25, which is consistent with best practices and with our own goal of being excessively conservative for the interest of our city. That's there. And some years we'll be able to meet it. You'll be on the higher side, but either way, we know that that's our range. And so I want to thank you for that, also for thinking outside of the box for that, also because I think it really is a practical way to approach a reserve. The cities are, and we never know what next year is going to hold. I personally have always said this, as much as I think our city is fantastic. I truly believe our best years are still ahead. Some people like to look back. I say the best is yet to come, and it'll be coming, and there will be a time when we can implement all of these projects.
Yeah,
we'll have the money there. It'll probably be, things, we have to make some adjustments. The commercial base has to increase. Our funding, commercial revenues have to increase. Tax base have to increase. They can't be on our residents' backs. I mean, it's just, it was okay in the past, but obviously everything's too expensive for them to be bearing that burden.
Yep. And there will certainly be more projects to be I wanted to list it because those are things that kind of stood out to me in my first year, that I want to put on the radar. So you're not surprised later on, maybe in a year or so, I'm like, hey, remember this? I want to talk about this. I have an opportunity. So, but yeah, and as the reserves get built up, then we can use some of that to take on some of these smaller capital projects, maybe some of these acquisitions. So that way you don't have to tack it on to the to the millage rate. You can use the savings account while maintaining a responsible amount. And that's the idea of the range.
Wonderful. Councilman Vasquez?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
on this point, I appreciate you bringing it up. And I agree with you. I tend to believe in the higher number, but I'm open, right? The city manager mentioned the document you guys got tonight. I'm hoping to get it in the next day or so I can review it. I'm always looking for what best practices are and what the professionals in this particular domain are recommending. I recall when we were discussing term limits and all that, and Councilman Fahed brought some information to us and what the state and national model cities were doing. It's always good to take a fresh look at these, and I'm open to taking that look. I want to see what the manager brings and help me in my particular case, mold this through, understanding the importance of the reserve. So I'm looking forward to the document and to that conversation.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Erica, I wanted to thank you for bringing up the pursuing the passport, making our city clerk's office passport destination. What would they call it? Passport what?
Acceptance facility.
Passport acceptance facility. I think it's great. It serves, a great service, not just to our residents, but we're right by the Miami International Airport. I mean, this is a great fit and it's a revenue generator. That are the kinds of things we need to look at, ways that we can generate revenues for our city without, it being on the backs of our residents. So thank you I know this is something that you started last year and it was a long, long process, but it looks like we'll have it in place by the end of this year or next year?
Oh, no, I'm.
By the end of this year?
Yes, by the
Okay,
end of this year.
wonderful. And the good thing about that, and I think we've talked about it, is when they come that we can, when he's online or whatever, let them know about all the restaurants and the shops in Miami Springs, and hopefully, they can plan to have lunch here or stay and have dinner depending on when they come, and explore our city. So it'll bring in people from other areas into our city too, which will help our businesses. And I wanted to ask a question about we talked about the medical insurance going down, the property, and it's probably in this binder, but I didn't see it. The
We have
property
in there
insurance,
budgeted a 5% increase.
a 5% increase. Okay.
Mayor, I would add
Sir.
that last year we took a huge hit last year on property, on the
Property insurance.
property storm insurance because of the storms that went through the West Coast, and the foreboding warning that we got was that next year the health insurance is what was going to be a huge burden. So the fact that we were able to lower it by 5% is amazing.
When the original cap was set at 7.41, we had in the budget a 9% increase. So by eliminating that, I mean, you saved there $131,000 right off the bat. So that was a big deal.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilman Vasquez, you're online. Anything else?
No, just to let you know that I missed you guys. I don't know how many of you know I've been recovering from COVID, and
Oh, no.
and yeah, Myra and I we came back from Puerto Rico with it. And even though I tested negative yesterday, I wanted, out of abundance of caution, to wait another couple of days and test again before I went out and about. And so I was thinking about your guys' health and everyone else's health there. So otherwise, I would have been there with you.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll see you on Monday next Monday for our council meeting.
Looking forward to getting out of the house.
Okay. JC and Heidi, what do you recommend from here?
Well, there's no vote necessary. I think from here, if it's all good, we just move on to the hearings. We'll formalize the budget, organize a little nicer, get the goals and objectives in there. And mission statements, make it look, get ready for, presentation ready, as they say, and move on to, the first hearing in September.
Okay. Let's leave the budget workshop for the 19th. That's for now. If we don't need it, then we'll cancel it, but let's leave it on everyone's agenda. Does that sound fair in case?
I agree.
All right. And then as it gets closer, that week after the council meeting, if we decide we don't need it, we'll cancel that. I want to let encourage residents, still, this, if you've heard this, you've realized that, our staff, our city manager and our department directors and their staff have done an extraordinary job at proposing that our millage rate stays the same, no tax increases for next year. But be sure to reach out to any of us on the council or to our city manager, assistant city manager, if you have any questions about the process, or if you have any suggestions or comments. It's really important for us to hear what's important to you. Okay, and with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good night.
$70,000 difference in it. Right, because that was the question I had asked you, so I thank you for validating that for me. I would still like to see an arborist in, maybe next year, whenever you can get it in.
I have a new public works guy starting and he'll evaluate.
Right.
Oh, thank you.